Okay, hopefully I'm coming out live. Let's just check. Make sure this is coming out. Let's have a look. Just gives it a second to catch up. Let's have a look. There we go. Okay, should be coming out live now. So if people joining, just again, just want to let me know that you can hear me okay before I start rambling on. Let me just adjust that, and let me just do that. There we go. It's a bit better for me. So cool. People, just let me know that you can hear me. I'm using StreamYard because what I'm going to do tonight is share my screen with you and show you some little clips or some content from my website. So hopefully you can settle. Good boy. Settle. Well done, good boy. So excellent. So good. So people are joining. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So welcome I've lost track now. Day 5 of the 7 days of dog sport challenges. So it's again fantastic to see so many people having fun with their dogs, training their dogs, and trying the various challenges that I've covered over the last 5 days. So great response. Remember, if you have posted your video, you can post it on any social media platform that you use, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and just put the hashtag 7 days of dog sport or 7 days dog sports challenges at challenge, and I can pick it up. I can search it. And as I said, on Sunday, I will be picking somebody to win a free place on either my Obedience Fanatics course or Heel Work course. And I'm going to give you a little snoop around that today and get access to my VIP Facebook group. So if you haven't done it yet and you want to jump on board, there's still time. There's still a couple of days to put your video on, and just all you have to do is hashtag. I use that hashtag, and then I can search it and pick somebody out that has posted their video. So first and foremost, thank you for those of you that have done that thus far and have embraced the training of your dogs and having so much fun. It's been great watching your videos, and people have really got into the spirit of it, which is fantastic. It really was about just giving people ideas to help their dog sports or their dogs within dog sports, I should say, and identify some areas that they could improve, some areas that their dogs do really, really well, and showcase their brilliance as well. So that was fantastic. It's been a really, really great to see people like wake up and I see my notifications. I get tagged in posts from people, or I go on a search using that hashtag and I can find people's posts. So really, really thank you for that. So the last video I posted, which was this morning, was on the tug and release. So tugging, getting your dog to tug with a toy, and releasing a toy. And you got a toy there? I posted this afternoon just to say I'll be doing this live, and there were some questions which I'm going to come on to in this live tonight. Let me just go back and just make sure I am picking up the questions. 1 second. So let's have a look. So I will pick up those questions in a second shortly. So yeah, so tugging and here we go. So the reel I posted, which was today's challenge, was getting your dog to tug with a toy and release a toy. That was the first thing. Second thing was to tug the toy with the toy, release the toy, and then the dog follow you with holding the toy and not grab the toy, so showing a level of impulse control. And then finally, it was to tug with the toy, leave it on the ground, and walk off, and the dog focus on you in order to get the toy. So the finer details of those exercises was about evaluating your dog's understanding of the release of a toy. Obviously, first off, they have to have toy play. So going one step further. And that's why I'm going to talk about, I know there's a couple of people who posted questions about toy play. So will the dog play with the toy? If they'll play with the toy, will they then release it? Because without one, it's difficult to get the other. Now, if you have a dog that struggles with motivation with toy play, don't teach the release until further down the line. First port of call is to build the dog's desire for playing with the toy. Now, play in itself is a huge conversation. And, you know, if you go on my YouTube page or my Facebook page, you'll have seen me done loads of different lives and webinars on play. And also there, about the nuances of play. So things to consider if you have a dog that is reluctant to play is first and foremost the type of toy that you're using. So this is a great tug toy to play with. It's got 2 handles. It's made of material. You can see there Jimmy likes that toy. You go. I don't know because you'll chew it. Great toy to use. However, not the best to start off a dog with toy play. Alternatively, if I pick another toy up, this again, great toy. Good boy. Thank you. Good. Great toy to play with a dog. A bit thick, so you'd have to think about the dog that you would play with this toy with, and a bit hard on to tug. But good examples of toys that you can use. However, when you use a toy, you want to think about the material that you use, whether it has a long handle or a short handle, so you can snake it along the ground. You want to be thinking about what I call about the 10 points of pressure. Various things that you can inadvertently do that can help or hinder your dog wanting to play. Now, I've had a lot of dogs in the years that I've been dog training, 30 years plus that I've been owning dogs, and I've trained a lot of dogs. And not all of them come hardwired with the predisposed desire to tug a toy. In fact, my little old Sonic, who is in the background there, he wasn't a dog that wanted to play naturally. And I had to really cultivate his play. And I used food as the conduit to create play with him. And I've done some lives where I showed you that with another one of my dogs who had a tooth issue, and she, don't get that one, get the bone instead. And she was a dog that I had to go back and work on her wanting to tug from scratch again. She had brilliant tug as a puppy. She unfortunately had an issue with the canine, which had to be removed. And that really affected her confidence around playing. Now she tugs brilliantly, but it took a bit of a process. And one of the things that I did with her was use food as a conduit or a means to an end to create play. Other dogs, it may be a case of using the toy that they use, being aware of their sensitivity. With my little Jack Russell Cross Sugar, again, it's in the background, just chilling on the bed. She was a dog that came to us late, probably about a year old. And she clearly found playing with somebody stressful. And again, I share with on my YouTube page, I share with people the journey to create and play with her, and how that first initial session that I did with her, she was very anxious about play and me trying to handle her. For me, play is an integral part of my relationship with my dogs, because it helps me create a make physical contact with them and teach them to be comfortable with that physical contact. I can play different games with a medium of toy. I can obviously use it as a reinforcement. But the biggest thing, it's really about bonding with the dog and forming that relationship. If we look at all species, humans, dogs, cats, horses, whatever, they use play with each other as a medium to bond and interact, and they learn obviously life skills. But most importantly, I think for us as human beings and dogs, it's a great way to really, really consolidate our relationship. I want my dog to see me as somebody fun to be around, okay? And whilst you can do that with food, I definitely want to have play as an option on my training table, so to speak. So when you're talking about building play with your dogs, it is really important that you spend the time building that up, and that depends on the dog. It'd be great if you had a dog that was, came out as whatever, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and instantly played brilliantly and would switch between toys and food brilliantly, but that isn't often the case. So ensure that you put the work in to create that desire for toy play initially first. Think about the toy that you use. Think about the environment that you play in. Think about how you present the toy to the dog. Often what can be off-putting to dogs is our body language. It can be intimidating to dogs, and therefore the dog is inhibited and doesn't want to play with full intensity and drive and desire. Make sure that you're cultivating toy play with your dogs, and it's always worth revisiting it periodically and going out and just doing sessions where you just play with your dog. Once I feel I have sufficient desire for the toy, then I can start to work on the dog releasing the toy. And I can do that. My preferential method of doing that is using classical conditioning. Really, really simply, I don't have to have play 150% to start the process in the background. I simply use classical conditioning to teach my dog to release the toy. And by simply having food in my hand or my pocket, saying my release cue, drop, leave, out, and dropping some food on the floor. Doing that half a dozen times, the dog is going to start to predict whenever I say that cue, it's going to be shortly followed by me dropping food on the floor, presenting them with food. So the dog now has an association. It's been conditioned to hear that word and anticipate and associate it with food turning up. Once I've got that understanding, I can then introduce toy play and I can say that word. And the hope should be, or the connection that the dog should make, is to release the toy in anticipation of getting the food. Initially, a lot of dogs will struggle with going back and forth between the two things, between toy play and food play. Sorry, toy play and food. And it's really important to create that. Beryl, my little poodle, who's 1 today, happy birthday, Beryl, was a dog, good boy, was a dog that really struggled with that initially. She's got really good food drive and she's got really good toy drive, but what she couldn't do is switch between the two things. Normally, she would play brilliantly, but if you brought food into the equation, she wouldn't then go back and play. We worked really, really hard at getting that, and now she does that nicely. So it's really important that you work on that little tiny step, but that your dog understands to switch from food to toys and back again. Often what you'll find is people will struggle with that, and they will then not do the work in to get the dog to switch fluidly between the two things. So make sure that you're putting the work in for your dog to want the toy, separately teach the release, and then work on the dog switching between the two things. So I'm not sure if anybody's got any questions on that before I talk any further. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. So let's have a look. Okay. So whilst people are typing up their questions, and hopefully you can see them, and I'll pick them up on Facebook. Sophie Rolfe asked, let me see, Kamal Fernandez, you may have seen Yogi couldn't engage in play when food was about. When there's just a toy to work on, he's really engaged, but doesn't always give it up at first. How do you help him with that without using food for the release reward? So again, I would definitely do this release separately. You don't even have to have toy play. You're going to knock the wire on, sweetie. Settle. Right there. Good boy. Mind the wire. Good boy. Jimmy, settle. Good boy. Don't rush. Good boy. Well done. Good. So first thing I would do is teach the dog to do the release word separately. Use classical conditioning. You don't even have to have your toy play particularly strong. Okay, work on that back at the ranch. And with most dogs, if they've got good food drive, you don't have to do that repetitively. Within half a dozen to 2 dozen, maybe a dozen reps, you've probably got the association built. So once you've got it, you can shelve it and put it on the back burner. Separately to that, you're going to be working on your dog's toy play. Once you've got that strong, then what you would do to introduce the at first, the dog releasing, you would use a high value toy and a low value treat. So then the hope is that the dog will release for the low value treat and then go back to the toy play. Initially, you have to work really hard to get them back into toy play. Really, loads of energy, loads of movement in the toy, etc. Once they go back to it, you can also, excuse me, click them for interacting with the toy and reward them with the food. So the dog understands that when they engage with the toy, they will get the food. And that's another little fix there. All right. So the second part of your question was, also, if the dog will play well, but rate something higher, in his case, food, in Pippi's case, tennis ball, is it possible to increase the value of the toy, or will their preference remain? Both will tug, but once in fly ball lanes, they won't even look at tugging. So all dogs have preferences. Yeah, if you sat them down and asked them, they would absolutely be able to say, yeah, I prefer the chump steak, or I prefer the tennis ball, or whatever the case may be. It's down to us to understand in what situation the reinforcement that the dog prefers, you being a fidget, is the best option, and what emotional state that puts the dog in. Do you want that? There you go, have that. What emotional state the reinforcement puts the dog in. So, for example, if my dog really giddy, then I would probably use an alternative reinforcement and save the ball as a jackpot. Now, ideally, we want our dogs to like as many things as possible. And in the early stages, I work really hard at creating, not what I'd say is a perfect balance, but certainly the dog liking things on a moderate to high level. Okay. But they will always have a preference, and it's down to me as a trainer to know which preference the dog has and manipulate that for my own gains. So don't necessarily fight it. You can create a transfer value where the dog associates the lower value reinforcer with the higher value reinforcer, but that needs to be conditioned periodically to maintain it, to maintain the desire, in my experience. However, and the dog, to be fair, like with Sonic, he didn't play and I used food to create it. He got to a point, even now, he'll randomly get a toy and try and interact with you and play. But if you definitely present the food with him, he would definitely go for the food. So it's not that he doesn't like toys and he doesn't have value. He in actual fact has a lot of value. But for the dog, he has definitely a preference. So we always, reinforcement is dictated by the dog. Our job is to present them with as many options and cultivate as many options as we possibly can, because that allows us to train them more effectively. All right. So just going to run through. Maria, on the previous post I made, any tips for using play as a reward in shaping? Yes, absolutely. Big thing for that is having reliable release, because otherwise it slows down your ability to use the toy effectively. What then happens is, if the dog doesn't release, then you're reluctant to reward the dog because you have to get into this little struggle with them. Then that inhibits your desire to reward the dog, and so forth and so forth. So make sure you train a solid release and an informal play retrieve where you can throw the toy, the dog will bring it back to you at speed. That's a great way, of rewarding the dog, and it keeps your training efficient. That's really what we want to do. All right. So let's run through some questions here. So let's have a look. Okay. So Gloria said, fantastic subject for release. My dog did not come wide for tugging or any play, and my hands show the wear that as they seem to be target to hold or grab instead of a toy. So any suggestions? That issue is normally tied in with mechanics. Okay, we'll just keep that up there. So evaluate your mechanics and how you play. Video your training session so you can observe it. Think about using a longer toy. So, for example, something like this tug toy would be a great option, because it means you can, there's plenty of targeting for the dog to have. What dogs tend to do is go where the most movement is. So what most people do is they do a lot of this with their hand, and then causing the toy to move a little bit. But if you looked at it logically, the most activity is in your hand movement. So try and work on your technique, that you're keeping your hand movement minimal, but you're moving the toy. And if you use a light, long toy, you can use like real flicking the toy, and that will cause the toy to be interesting and not so much your hand. So hopefully that will help you. Okay. I teach bite inhibition really young. So if my dogs do grab my person, because I've got really strong, powerful dogs, I will stop playing and just momentarily pause, sort of go on my phone, scratch my head, oh gosh, and then start again. So they very quickly learn not to touch my flesh. As a general rule of thumb, dogs are dogs, and if there's a genuine accident, that's another thing. But generally speaking, they know not to touch my person because of that very reason. It can be painful and uncomfortable. Okay, so Sky is exactly the same as Beryl. Hard to work hard to get toy play and get a good strong tug. The release is now reluctant, but when I use food for the release, the toy play is weaker. So another option for a dog that has that issue is to teach marker cues. So with my toy-driven dogs, and I don't want to necessarily bring food into the equation. And for example, those of you that do bite work, we don't want to just switch the dog onto food. You can use a alternative toy or a toy delivery as a way to pay the dog for releasing. So bite the toy, release the toy, throw the toy, bring the toy back, release the toy, switch for another toy. That little cycle, mixed up in varying versions, can really help dogs that have good toy play, and you want to reinforce the out. Also, I have different cues, which means chase, means I'm going to throw it, strike, which means grab it from my hand, and I can also say my clicker word for food, or I can say a clicker word for toys, and I can produce a second toy. So I can shape the dog that way to release without the necessity of using food. Okay, hopefully that helps you answer the question, Chrissy. Donna said, sorry, just jumped on late. At present, I have toy play as a toy exercise rather than something they want to do. They both will give up a toy when asked, as they see it as part of the exercise. That's a really common thing when you're first cultivating play. And again, evaluate your mechanics. Look at how you are playing with the dog. Look at your mannerisms and your demeanor, and making sure that you're having fun. I like to, if I have a dog that's got what I call mechanical play, I like to fake out the toy like it's still, then snatch it off them and make it really move. So what that will do is kick the dog into prey drive, where they then react more instinctively and grab the toy, and then you get more real play. Also, go out and play for play's sake. Don't have any agenda of training and exercise. Don't chew that, you. Come here. Don't go out with the intention of training and exercise. Just go out and play with the dog for the sake of it, and that's a great way to just build desire for toy play. Excuse me. Okay, Lorna said, I struggle with the release of the tug toy, then go straight into heel work. Any suggestions? Stop doing that for starters, okay? Because what the dog is learning is that there isn't any reinforcement available for the tug. You want to do tug, release, reward, tug, release, reward, tug, release, reward, tug, release, heel work, tug, release, reward. So you want to slip heel work in just as a little sprinkling as opposed to the main course. That way the dog believes that when you release the toy, when they release the toy, they're likely to get it back, and therefore you'll get them more cooperative, and then it means then you can interweave more and more heel work training into it. But definitely work on that problem. Okay. Okay, Angela Ruddock. Hi, my boy is food and toy driven, but will not drop the toy even for high value food. He'll occasionally drop when he has an identical toy, but I have, but not consistently. He seems to prefer having possession. So first off, try classically conditioning the release word away from toy play. Use a low value food, and actually also try the different reward markers. And you could put possession on cue. One of my old dogs, Scooter, who was a rescue border collie from Border Collie Rescue, he was a dog that I had to really work on play because his play had been effectively punished before I got him. So I didn't get him till he was about maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe 5 months, I think. And he'd already had about 5 or 6 homes. And in that process of being bounced around, he he'd clearly been punished for playing. So what would happen is when he would grab a toy, he was reluctant to play and he was very hand shy. 2, when he did play, he wanted to get the toy and run off with it. He didn't want to bring it near you. So how I actually created play drive with him was by putting possession on cue. So I would actually play a game. I'd say, I'm going to get you, I'm going to catch you, and I'd pretend to chase him and pretend to grab him, and that become his reinforcer for bringing it back. So I taught him to do a hand touch. So he'd pick a toy up, do a hand touch, and then I would mark him, and then I would actually let him possess it and run around. And as a result of that, he actually found the play really reinforcing because he got the opportunity to possess it, but on cue. So whenever your dog has something that that they like to do or they prefer, don't fight it, use it to your own advantage. Okay. For Lisa, what about dogs that won't tug at show setting as warm-up? So I would take that as an indicator of the dog's arousal or the state of arousal. Is the dog over-aroused? Is it under-aroused? Is the dog overwhelmed by the environment? Is the dog distracted by the environment? And I would absolutely want to work on that, because that's an indicator of where your dog is emotionally. And that's a little bit of a red flag. Come here, you, the buffalo. Right, come out of the way. Mind the wires. Settle now. That I would definitely, good boy. You're a bit of a fidget. Good boy. I would definitely want to address that as a way to build the dog's confidence up. Good boy. And work on it separately from competing per se. Take the dog to a quiet space at a show, work on the dog's toy play, bring out the dog's favorite toy, and work on interaction. Also evaluate your mechanical skills and your timing around toy play, because often it can be about what we're doing. Think about those 10 points of pressure. Okay. Okay, Glenda. I have a GSD who finds it difficult to release toy, particularly after it has been thrown. We're starting to get there sometimes. One of the videos you said about accidentally reinforcing the dog and maintaining the hold. She will drop it more willingly, then release to hand. So I would that would be a brilliant way to start. An offered settle. Good boy. Just dog training whilst I'm on you. Good boy. Settle is a relaxed cue, and he's not relaxed, so he's struggling with that. So definitely work on the dog's wanting to offer a release of the toy. So let the dog offer it, almost like spit it on the floor. Reward with a second toy, so the dog is willing to release the toy. And also try, when you present food to the dog, make the food like a toy. Throw it, get the dog, chase it, make it interesting for the dog. So hopefully that gives you some advice there. Okay, let's have a look. Sue Ingram. Where did you get the long rope toy? My mannies also tend to grab my hands So I could do with something bigger. So again, I'm terrible. I have so much equipment. I've acquired it over the years. You could probably go online and get a tug toy. Look for a ball on the rope. I know there's Pet Needs is a company that I get a lot of my stuff from. I'll share a link for that. That would probably be your best bet. Swag is another company. I'll share a link for them as well. They've got really good ball on ropes. And they can do varying lengths of with their handles. So I'll share some links there and you can have a look, Sue. All right. Let's have a look. Is it okay to allow dogs to have toys around the house to play with independently, but keeping the high value toys separate for training? Absolutely. As you can see, I've got toys around the house. But if I had a dog that didn't desire toys, then I'd probably limit those high value toys. But I have lots of toys around the house. I have a bucket, like a whole container full of toys that my dogs play with. If I had a dog that really struggled and I was struggling with the right relationship with the dog, I might keep those separately and make a bigger thing of working on the toy play. All the dogs I have now, excuse me, because they interact with the toys nicely, I can afford to let them have toys. But really, it's about your interaction and your presence within the game. Okay, so let's have a look. My dog likes to tug and will happily swap it for food, but I let him win the toy, then wants to disappear with it. So first off, think about the environment that you train in. So work on that skill in a smaller space so the dog doesn't have that opportunity. If you're out and about, use a lead or a long line, and work on the dog when it has the toy, bringing it back and just wanting to be with you. Massive, massive rule that people break is they give the dog the toy, they tug with it, the dog brings it back and they straight away grab it off the toy. Think of it logically. Why would the dog want to bring it back if you keep persistently taking it off the dog? So tweak that detail. I like to do a lot where I let my dogs possess the toy and they're with me and touching me and I'm touching them, but I'm not actually going anywhere near the toy. When you first play with the dog, one of the rules is to touch the dog 10 times before you're allowed to actually touch the toy after they brought it back. That's a good way to not develop a habit of the dog taking it and not wanting to bring it back. Do you want them there? Toy. Just some thoughts there, some questions, and hopefully some answers that will help you guys. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen and give you a little insight into my online courses and the VIP group. So anybody that signs up for either the Heel Work Masterclass or Obedience Fanatics will get access to my VIP Facebook group. It's entitled Obedience Fanatics, but it covers both courses and anything else that you want to train or anything that you're working on. As I mentioned earlier in the week, there's people from a variety of dog sports, everything from obedience to agility to working trials to IGP to Mondio Ring to heel work to music to rally to scent work. There's an eclectic mix of trainers in there. It's a fantastic group, like-minded people that are working and striving towards their own personal goals. They have achieved phenomenal results across the board in lots of different sports across the world. We've got people from all over England, Europe, New Zealand, America, Australia, and loads of other places. So really, really great bunch of people. So I'm going to share my screen and give you guys a little nosy into the course. So let's have a quick look if I can do this. Okay, so hopefully it's coming up. So this is a little insight into this happens to be the heel work course. Obviously, the Obedience Fanatics course is a similar format. So it's run on the platform called Mighty Networks. And it's just the reason I transitioned over is this is really, really easy for people to get around. So obviously there's a start here button, which has a little bit of brief information about the course. And then it kind of jumps straight into the various tabs relating to the course. So if we look at the heel work materials masterclass course, there's all these lectures relating to heel work. So there's a webinar here. Ooh, if I have a look at that I'm going to just put that volume down. And if I play that, this is one of many lectures and webinars relating to heel work and all the nuances of heel work training. Certainly for this lecture was about the changes in the way in which I do heel work now or train heel work now. So that's a lecture that you can look at. And if we go on, there's an ebooks that you can download. There's handler tutorials about footwork or handling, etc. And then we can go on to some body awareness stuff here for heel work. And then we can go on to the various tutoring videos. So if we go and play a video here. Okay. And this is a video of starting a young dog with food follows. You can see here me with a puppy some time ago, actually, and showing and demonstrating with this puppy this particular exercise, which happens to be a food follow. So again, loads of information about all the relevant steps to teaching heel work in this particular course. Now, if I was to look at the Obedience Fanatics course, so let's go and have a nosy there. And again, same sort of format, really easy to look around. All the sections are really nicely labeled. So here's the section on tugging, all the relevant information about tugging and how to create tug, working through challenges with different dogs, teaching the release, then working on food for focus, you're using food as a reinforcer, and then working on loads of different lessons, switch on, switch off, teaching a dog a switch off and switch on word, building, again, this is informal retrieve with your dog. So all the foundation games, then going on to shaping. And then this particular course then goes on to the specific exercises for obedience. So there's all the foundation courses. You can see loads and loads and loads of information. And then we go on to the specifics. So this happens to be the section about teaching the specific positions, sit, stand, and down, both luring in those positions and shaping them. And then we go on to the specific exercises. So send away, distance control, scent, and so forth. So loads and loads of information there on each of the courses. Oh, we just moved that. Good boy. So if I now stop that, hang on a second. And so hopefully you can see there's massive, massive content, which is literally a step-by-step guide of taking any dog from being a raw blank canvas to the top level of your chosen sport. So in addition to that, anybody that signs up will get free access to my exclusive VIP group. So I'm going to just share you and have a little nosy round of that. So again, I just get rid of that notification. So this is the group that relates to the online course. It's a VIP group, and you can see there my members have been submitting their videos of the 7 days of dog sport challenges, but also they can submit videos for feedback on their training, or they've all been really doing the 7 days challenges. That's fine. So if I scroll a bit further down, as you can see, they've all been embracing the challenges. Let me find a tutoring video. So let me have a quick look. So, for example, here's a let me find training video. They've been jumping on board with the 7 day challenge. You can see how keen they are. So let's have a look. So again, here's an example of somebody that posted a video. Their dog does nose work and asking for feedback. So they can post as many videos as they want. And then I can give them some feedback and guidance about that particular video. And as I said, you can do that with as many dogs as you have and for as many videos. There's no limitation on it. And the feedback comes directly from me about the training and anything to move it on, to progress it, and so forth. So stacks and stacks of content there. And the VIP group really is something that most people, adjust that, are going to get loads and loads from. So again, I'll share some information about signing up if you're interested. As I mentioned earlier in the week, somebody is going to get a free place to either one of those courses and access the VIP group by simply sharing their video of their participation in the 7 days of dog sport challenges. And on Sunday, I will, you just knocked the wire out. I will share the video. I will pick the winner of that particular place. All right. So I'm just going to have a look if there's any final questions. Let's have a look. I think there's one here. Haley asked, should I have a separate word rather than leave it? Yes, I don't. I have leave it as a cue, but it's when it's a bite work cue for my dogs. But and yes, I would definitely have a different word, a clear cue that means the dog release the toy. So yeah, definitely do that, Haley. All right. So I think that's all the questions. Hopefully, excuse me, it's given you a little bit of insight into the groups. and also the VIP groups and the courses. If you're interested in signing up, I'll share some information about that. I'll also share those websites for toys. And obviously tomorrow and Sunday, there's still 2 more challenges for you guys to have a go at. Post your videos, tag me in it, or tag 7 days, or preferably use the hashtag 7 days dog sports challenges to be eligible to get a place on one of those courses. If you want to sign up, if you're super keen to come on board, I'll share some information and hopefully some of you will join. Other than that, I think that's about it. Thank you for joining me this evening. Another 2 more lives tomorrow and Sunday. Looking forward to seeing your videos on the next couple of challenges. There's a couple of good ones coming up to finish up on. But yeah, have fun with your dogs. It's great to see people enjoying the process of training. And yeah, have fun. Take care wherever you are. See you all later.